Hello. Yes. I don't need it now. This is not helpful, but thank you. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my August haul. So, it is that time again to do the books that I acquired in the previous month, aka August. So my stack here, my list here, is not small by any stretch of the imagination, but it is small for me. So like I did relatively decent this month. I'm looking at it, and a lot of things here are either pre-orders or were in book subscriptions. Like I think 2 things in this stack, maybe 3, are things that I just like bought on a whim. The rest of them had a purpose. So that is exciting. So the month of pre-orders, if you will, which is kind of weird because usually my pre-orders are like mostly May. That's like where a lot of the stuff that I like comes out. And fall, I'm really bad at figuring out what's coming out. So I'm very excited with what we picked up. A lot of these you will have already seen because there's a good chunk of these that are already in my TBR for the month. So without further ado, let's just dive in. So the very first book is the book that I received in my July Unplugged box. They were a little delayed, so it came a little bit later, but that is okay. And I'm very excited about this one, although you have seen it. But if you haven't seen that unboxing, I'll leave it linked above as always if you'd like to check it out. But here's your warning that I'm about to spoil that book. And that is The Woman and the Library. And this is by Solari Gentile, I believe. This is one of the books that's on my September TBR. It feels very perfect for this fall time because it seems like it's a thriller, a mystery, if you will. But it takes place at a library, which, I mean, what could be better, honestly? So it follows these 5 people who are in the reading room at the Boston Public Library. And they're just kind of like minding their own business, chilling, doing whatever it is that they need to be in the library for. And they hear a woman scream. And so the security guard in the library basically tells everyone to stay put while I try to figure out what the heck's going on. And so these 5 people are stuck in this room. And they start to kind of like share stories, get to know each other a little bit more. But the last sentence in this basically says, each has his or her own reason for being in the reading room that morning. It just so happens that one is a murderer. So is the woman that screamed dead? Is this the guy that killed her? Or is it like a totally different situation? I don't know, but I'm very interested to find out. So it gives me all the like spooky vibes, especially like early fall, just because library is like reminds me of scholarly stuff, which reminds me of school, and school having started in like August and September is like the early days of school. It makes me really want to read it right about now. So I'm very excited to dive in. I'll let you know how it goes, but that is the very first book I picked up, and quite a good one. I'm very excited. I'm so bad at getting to the books that I get in subscription boxes, so the fact that I was able to get one on a list makes me very happy. The next book is my most recent fairy loot, which is the July one, I think. Well, I guess it's not the most recent one because I definitely would have. Yeah, it's the July box. But as of seeing this, I've definitely put out the August box as well for Fairy Loot. So I'm behind the times. But here's your warning. I'll leave the unboxing linked above, as I usually do if you don't want to know what that box or the book is going to be. But that book is The Darkening, and this is by Sunya Mara. And I'm just obsessed with this cover. I mean, it's sparkly, you've got cool sprayed edges, and it's always a fun YA fantasy. So this book has kind of a convoluted synopsis, so bear with me here. We follow our 2 main characters. One is Prince Dalka, who's like basically born with a purpose, and his purpose is to save his home from this thing called the Storm, which is a deadly force that like surrounds the city. And then we've got a girl named Vesper Vale, who's the daughter of failed revolutionaries, and her mother was sentenced to death by the Storm. And so these 2 meet, and like she seems to be like trying to save the prince from her mother's fate, or save herself from her mother's fate, and is armed with her dad's book of experimental magic, and she infiltrates the prince's elite squad of sorcerers. And of course, I think there's going to be a relationship between the 2 of them. And it also sounds like there's more to her mom's death than she realizes. So It's got all the YA fantasy vibes for sure, and I'm obsessed with this cover, and I'm curious to see what this storm is, you know? Like, what is that? But yeah, this was the July box, or the July book that was in Fairy Loot's July box. All right, and we're starting with the pre-orders now. So the first one is Husband Material, and this is by Alexis Hall. This is the second in her, I guess, Boyfriend Material is what it's called. The first book in the series, Boyfriend Material, basically follows Luke and Oliver. One of them, I believe it's Luke, is the son of like a rocker, and so he's kind of got the bad boy vibes, and then you've got Oliver, who's very straight-laced, and so the two of them end up like coming together, meeting, and striking up a bargain that they're going to basically have like a fake relationship of sorts. It's going to help out Luke's job, and it's going to help Oliver at like a family event. And so based on the title of this book, I'm going to assume that they're taking the relationship to the next step. But I adored this first book. I thought it was so fun. It's got a lot of that like British humor that I really enjoy. It's like, it reminded me a lot of like, what were those movies? Bridget Jones' Diary, like that kind of banter and stuff. And so I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see what we have here. It continues with their relationship, and I don't know, it's blurred by Christina Lauren, so like, it's going to be good things, I'm sure. I'm very excited about this one. I stumbled upon this one. I didn't realize it was coming out, so I'm so glad that I have it. I don't know when I'm going to read it because it feels like a fun contemporary, so maybe beginning of next year sometime would be nice. End of the year, we'll see how things go. But yes, I got my copy in the mail. And then another pre-order is one that you've already seen because it's on my September TBR, and that is My Imaginary Mary. And this is by the Lady Janies, which is Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. These authors probably should sound pretty familiar by now because they wrote a series about Janes, and now they're starting a series about Marys. And it's basically taking popular and well-known Janes and Marys from history, literature, stuff like that, and kind of giving them a twist. So this one follows Mary Shelley, as well as, oh no, what's her name? Ada Lovelace. So Mary Shelley, before she becomes Mary Shelley, in this book she is Mary Wollstonecraft. Oh, I used to know how to pronounce that. So she just wants to be a writer, you know, she's just trying to get like that next, you know, good thing. And then you've got Ada, who is the daughter of Lord Byron, and she's very much into like mechanics and like engineering and stuff like that. And so she's creating this thing called Pan, which is Practical Automaton #1. It's basically like fancy AI. But of course, with all of these books, there's some sort of magical twist, and these two characters may or may not have some sort of magical power and may be descended from some sort of magical being. And so you've got the two of them. They've created this I cannot say that word, automaton, and there's also like a guy who's trying to figure out how they did what they did. I love their books. They're always so funny. And this was the most recent one. So we're two-thirds of the way through their Mary series. There's one more after this, which I believe follows Typhoid Mary, which I'm sure will come out sometime next year. But yeah, I am very excited to see where this one goes. It's perfect for like this time of year, I feel like, because you've got Marie Shelley, and like she wrote Frankenstein, which is like a perfect spooky novel. So while this book may not be spooky, it kind of revolves around people who make things spooky. So I'm so excited about this one. But yes, my pre-order came in. The next book, taking a break from the pre-orders, is one that you will have seen because I read it last month. I picked it up because I wanted to read it immediately. And that is the fourth and final book in the Magic Misfits series by Neil Patrick Harris. This one is The Fourth Suit, is what it's called. This series, I've talked about it quite a lot on this channel, basically follows these 6 friends who are really into magic, kind of like sleight of hand, that kind of magic. And they get mixed up in the first book and with some stuff, and it just kind of continues from there. So I read the 3rd one last month, and it had a cliffhanger, so I needed to pick up the 4th one immediately. So I went out and bought it, and now we do own the entire series, which I'm very glad about. I've been collecting them as I've been reading, so it was just time. But this series is so fun. I love it. It's definitely good for like the younger side of middle grade. It definitely stems towards that in its writing style, but it does have a very fun writing style. It breaks the fourth wall a lot, and I think Neil Patrick Harris is just really good at writing, and I would love to read more books by him. I think he's really funny in his writing, and it really comes off as like a conversation. Like I can actually sit there and like hear him in the book. And now granted, I did read these on audiobook, but only the first one was narrated fully by him. He has bits and pieces throughout the rest of the books, but each one has a different narrator because each one follows a different kid. And so this is just the finale, and it was very good. The first and the last book are my favorites in this series, so it was kind of cool to have like the bookends, if you will, be my favorites. But yeah, I picked up the fourth one because I needed to read it. I needed answers, and I did. So I've actually read this book. So look at me. I'm doing better as I collect, you know? Maybe? All right, the next two are also not pre-orders, but they were in a sense because like they were part of Barnes & Noble's hardback deal. And so I went on and I found these for like super cheap. Like they were at least half off, if not more. And the first one is Playing with Myself by Randy Rainbow. So you will have seen this one because again, it's on my TPR for September. This is a very small memoir by Randy Rainbow. If you don't know who he is, I would highly recommend checking him out. He's a YouTuber that is really good at like taking like social commentary, specifically political commentaries on the situations and stuff that are happening in today's world, and like making a Broadway like musical number work with them, and he like rewrites them and just makes it a lot of fun. And he's got a lot of costumes, and he just sounds like he would be so fun. Like, I kind of want to be best friends with him. I feel like we would get along very well. But he's very into the Broadway scene, loves that kind of stuff, and I do love me a good musical. So I picked this one up mostly for my husband, but also for me because I definitely wanted to read it. I thought it would be kind of fun. And I think I found the audiobook with him as a narrator, which, as you guys know, is my favorite way to read memoirs and autobiographies. He just got, like, let me read you the list of people that he got to blurb this book, because these are the people to know in, like, Broadway. So you've got Patti LuPone, Carol Burnett, Stephen Sondheim, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and RuPaul. So, like, this man is connected, and I just feel like his life would be very interesting to read about. He's got a very, like, humorous style, and so I think his writing would really reflect that. So I wanted to pick this one up just because I was very curious, but I'm hoping to read it in September, so I'll let you know how that goes. And then the other book is one for me, and it's a nonfiction, and that is Antoinette's Sister, and this is by Diana Giovanazzo? Maybe? I'm sure I completely butchered that. So this book follows Maria Carolina Charlotte, or Maria Charlotte, who is one of the sisters of Marie Antoinette. A few months ago, you probably remember, I read a Nancy Goldstone book, which is called The Shadow and the Empress, and that was about the Empress of Austria, who was the mother of Marie Antoinette, as well as like she has like 14 siblings. Like this woman had like 15 kids at least, if not more. But she had 3 daughters that really went on to kind of shape that part of Europe, and the book kind of follows them as well. Marie Antoinette is a very famous, you know, she was part of the French Revolutionary. I feel like she's one of, like, a famous monarch in history. And this follows her sister, who I was very interested in based on that book. So when I found out that this book was about her, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna need to investigate that, because, like, I kind of got an idea into who she was with that other book, and I thought it was really fascinating, and so I couldn't wait to continue, because out of the 3, like the big daughters that were in that book, she's the one that lasted the longest as far as, like, being in power, because she basically ran Naples. Her husband could have cared less about the country. He was basically like a 16-year-old boy stuck in a, like, 20-something-year-old body as it continued to grow. Like, all he wanted to do was be entertained, and so she had to basically run the country. And so I'm very interested to see her story and how things work. I've never read anything by this author, so I'm very interested to see how it goes, because nonfiction writing is hit or miss with me, but because I'm so interested in this time period now that I kind of have an idea because of that other book that I read, that this will be fun to kind of dive into her history a lot. So yeah, I picked up this one, so hopefully we'll get to this one soon-ish, because I'm very, very interested in that. Okay, the next book is my most recent Unplugged book, which would have been, I believe, August's box? Yes. So if you haven't seen that unboxing, I will leave it linked above, as I do with all things at this point. But you've been warned, I'm going to spoil that box for you. But that is They Drown Our Daughters, and it is by Katrina Monroe. So this one sounds very, very spooky. So we follow some of our main characters. We have Meredith Strand, who used to live in this place called Cape Disappointment. It's supposed to be haunted. People come there, or used to come there in droves, tourists did, and tried to find all the spooky, like, thought they saw dark shapes in the water, that kind of stuff. But Meredith and her young daughter come back to her childhood home, which is this Kate, after a split with her wife. But you've also got Meredith's mother, who it says here is suffering from the early stages of Alzheimer's and is convinced that all the ghost stories is real and that there's something in the water watching them and reaching out towards Meredith's young daughter. So it's very spooky sounding. Honestly, it reminds me of House of Salt and Sorrow just a little bit, and I don't know if it's because there's a lighthouse and there was a lighthouse in that book, because it's kind of spooky, it's set around the sea. I don't really know, but I'm obsessed with this cover because I think the flowers are so pretty. I mean, the fact that this is definitely a face underwater, we're just going to skip that part, but the flowers are very, very pretty. So it says here that it's like part gothic, part ghost story, so it feels perfect for this time of year. We'll see if and when I get to it, but the font is so tiny. I will say, like, the font is, this is one that I'm going to have to either for sure find an audiobook for, or like give myself some grace with it, because this font is teeny tiny and I can barely read it as it is. So that's my most recent book. It's definitely starting the spooky season reads, because Unplugged really, really likes spooky season. So I am very interested to see how I feel. I'm thinking that I might get to this book maybe in the next couple months or so. We'll see how I'm feeling, but I'm interested. I'm definitely interested for sure. All right, we're going back to some of the pre-orders now. The next one being one of my favorite series to look forward to at this point, and that is this series by Elise Kova, which is Married to Magic. This one is A Duel with the Vampire Lord. This one is the chunkiest one by far. I know it doesn't look chunky right now, but if you saw the other two, like, it just, I swear, doubles in size. Which makes me a little nervous because of a couple things. One, these books are fantastic. I love them so much, but there's no audiobook for them, so it makes me, I have to read them really, really slowly because I have to physically read them, which is fine. I love me a good physical read now and then, but it takes me forever to get through. And two, it's about vampires, which is not my favorite thing to read about, I'm not gonna lie, but I will do anything for Elise Kova, especially with this series because I have loved it so, so much. So this series is a standalone series where, like, it all takes place in the same world, but like you can read each book individually or skip and pick and choose kind of what you're interested in, but they're all based on some sort of fairy tale, mythology, something along those lines. So it says here that this is a darkly reimagined Snow White, which meets inspiration from Beauty and the Beast, as well as like epic fantasy stories of vampires, hunters, and things like that. I swear I read somewhere that it's loosely based on Pride and Prejudice as well, but it doesn't say anything on the back here about that, which is totally fine. I would have read it anyway because I love this author so, so much. Okay, so again, maybe I wouldn't say convoluted, but definitely a lot of stuff going on here. It says at the very top, on the night of the blood mood, the vampire lord must die, which sounds suspicious, to say the least. So we follow our main character, Florine, and her job is basically to protect the vampire hunters. She's like sworn to the master hunter to protect all of them. And then on the blood moon, her brother is dying at the hands of said vampire lord. His name is Ruvan, I believe is how you pronounce it. So she fights him and decides, like, at all costs she's going to give her life as long as it means saving her brother, but he decides that he wants her instead. So he kidnaps her away to his castle, and they somehow have made some sort of pact where she is sworn to protect him instead. And then she learns that the vampires are not necessarily what they are thought to be. They are not mindless monsters, but the proud people twisted and tortured by an ancient curse. And then, of course, there are feelings between the two of them, because of course there are. So I'm thinking it won't be nearly as bad, but anything with vampires makes me a little hesitant just because of my thing with blood. Like, I don't like gory books if I know going into it. Like, if it's a gory book and I read a couple scenes, I'm like, oh, that's gross, and then I can move on. But if it's something like this where I know it's going to be gory because of the subject matter, it becomes interesting. But I will suffer. I will suffer for Elise Kova. So, yes, I picked out the most recent one. I think there's even a fourth one that's now been announced. Did I make that up? I might have made that up. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like there's definitely more in the series. Like, this is not the end, which I would hate for it to be because I'm loving the series so very much. So, hopefully I can get to this one because this feels like a spooky fall book with, like, the vampire vibes. But yes, my pre-order came in and I am so excited about it. Another pre-order that I'm very excited about is part of another series that I've been collecting for a lot. Same kind of vein, standalone and everything, and that is A Taste of Poison, and this is by Tassonia Odette. It's her most recent one in her Entangled with Fate series, which I talk about quite a lot on this channel. It's basically the same idea, standalone, where you can pick and choose whatever you want. They're all based on some sort of fairy tale. This one specifically is Snow White. We've had Cinderella, we've had Beauty and the Beast, and we've had The Little Mermaid so far. So they're all set in the same world, but you can kind of pick and choose whichever one you want to read. I also love that these books are illustrated and created, like the author basically did all of this. She created the cover and then the cover of the hardcover as well. Look at that. Isn't that just scream fun Snow White? I am very excited about it, and then I get them from her Etsy, so mine are signed and personalized, which is so fun. But these are all new adult books, so they do kind of walk that line between YA and adult, which I very much love. I've only read one so far, so I'm hoping to continue the series, as I say, literally all the time. This sounds like it's gonna be so much fun. It's between Snow White and like the hunter character. It says a runaway princess wanted for murder, a deadly huntsman who's after her heart. So we follow Astrid, who's half fae, and she has this unique ability, this magic that makes her mirror back one's worst qualities. So no one seems to like her. Everyone seems to really dislike her. She's used to not having friends because of this ability. And then her father is poisoned, and her stepmother's like convinced it's her, and so she escapes, runs into the woods, and hides at this place called the Seven Sins Hotel. And then you've got our hunter, or bear shifter, Torben, who's lost everything to the gambling halls, and he will do anything he needs to. And the stepmother basically like asks him to find said stepdaughter. He apparently has this great ability to like sniff out with his like, he has the ability to scent things, and so he can find most hidden people because of that. And so that's why the stepmother kind of like goes, hey, I need you to do this thing. And so the two of them obviously fall for one another. I mean, it's a romance, come on. So yeah, I'm very interested in this one. All of her books sound so cool because you can see the like hints to the original fairy tale, but also have like fun new twists on it, and it's all like fae related, which is fun. So that's her most recent one, just came out. I'm hopefully going to get to these soon. I keep saying, we'll see. So the next book is a lovely gift from my friend Taylor, because she had an extra copy and proceeded to send it to me because she knows how much, well, we have very similar tastes in romances and stuff. So it's a historical romance, and that is A Belated Bride, and this is by Karen Hawkins. And I just read the back again to like kind of remind myself what it was about, and it has everything. Enemies to lovers, second chance romance, caretaking trope, which is one of both of our favorites. And then it's also got like the marriage of convenience, things like that. So we follow our main two characters, Arabella and Lucian. And so Lucian basically like left Arabella high and dry and said peace bye many years ago. And so one day she just finds him outside on her land, and she's like, what is this? And so she proceeds to like take him in and kind of like care for him, but he can't tell her why he's back. He can't tell her why he left originally, and apparently she has secrets of her own as well. So secrets galore. But it sounds so great, and this is just a fun cover as well. And I love a good romance. But it's blurbed on the front by Julia Quinn, which makes me very excited. So hopefully this one will be read soon-ish because it sounds so very good. And then the very last book I want to talk about today is my very last pre-order for August, and that is The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the last book in the Inheritance games, which is a trilogy that I have really enjoyed and my husband has really enjoyed. Actually, we originally bought the book. I bought the book for my husband because I thought he would enjoy it, and now we've both binged this entire series. So this is mostly, I got it, or like I pre-ordered it for him so he could have it whenever he wanted to read it, but I'm also very interested in this. So this is a series that I've talked about quite a lot on this channel. I think people have heard people talk about a lot because it's very often referred to as, or not referred to, but like if you like the movie Knives Out, you would enjoy this. It's got a lot of the same vibes. So we follow our main character, who I've already forgotten what her name is, Avery. So we follow Avery, and she is kind of like down on her luck. Like she doesn't have a lot of money. She's living with her sister. They're just trying to make ends meet. And she basically ends up getting named, and this very rich man, the Hawthorne family, the kind of like monarch of the Hawthorne family, dies, and she is named in his will and is like, I think, sole heiress of everything. So she moves into this house, and he's got 4 grandsons who are all into like puzzles and games and stuff like that. So they're basically spending the first book, at least, they basically spend trying to figure out why her. And as she finds attraction towards a couple of these grandsons of sorts. So I'm very interested to see where the story goes from here. This is the very final book. I feel like if you're done with at the second book, you could technically stop. There is an ending feeling, but I'm interested to see where we go, especially because like this is the last book. There's going to be no more, and I just think they're fun. So I'm excited. It says riddles upon riddles, secrets upon secrets, winner takes all. There's a lot of like family secrets and drama of that sense. So I picked up the last book for us so that we could read it, especially during this fall time, because like mysteries and fall go hand in hand in my head. And that's it. Those are all the books that I picked up or acquired in the month of August. Like I said, lots of pre-orders came through, which is kind of funny because again, fall is not my pre-order time. Usually it's May. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you've read any of the books, what your thoughts on them were, if you got a book in the month of August that you were just so excited about, or a pre-order or just something. Tell me how you're feeling. What are some fun new things that you have acquired or picked up from the library? But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you would like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all that out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!